Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to explain the significance of why Lot, Abraham's nephew, initially rejected the request that the angel made of him to go to the mountain and to flee into the mountain for safety, only to end up in Zoar and not be able to make it in Zoar and actually now willingly leave to go to the same mountain which he initially rejected. So let's pick it up again. I read this in yesterday's video, but I'm going to break it down even further in today's video. So let's begin in Genesis chapter 19, verse 12, when Lot flees into Zoar. Then the two men, the Bible calls them men again. They are, of course, angels. They are going back and forth, and they're literally changing their appearance. Okay, much like Jesus or Yeshua Christ did on the mountain when he transfigured. The two men said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here, a son-in-law, your sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are about to destroy this place. For the outcry to the Lord against its people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it." Now, I want to also bring to your attention, before I get to the whole mountain scenario and its significance, is you'll notice that the men, or the angels, ask Lot, "Do you have anyone else?" They don't even know who those other people are, or at least the Bible is trying to convey to us that they don't really matter. As long as they're connected to Lot, Lot is getting so much respect and honor by God that if they're connected to Lot, they can be saved. They themselves may be sinners. Doesn't say. We're not clear. But because they're connected to Lot, they're getting saved. Have we seen that before? Are we going to see that? We see that in the story of Noah and the flood. You'll notice that God spoke to Noah, and just because Noah's family knows Noah, because they're from Noah, they end up in the boat too. The only righteous man, the Bible says, is Noah. It says nothing about his children. In fact, one of his children, Noah was pretty upset with. Okay? You can read that in the Bible. So, we see that God is by association. When you get called on by God, by association, the loved ones are benefiting from God's mercy and God's love. Let's continue. So Lot went out and spoke to the sons-in-law who were pledged in marriage to his daughters. "Get up," he said. "Get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy this city." But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. They didn't even take him seriously. At daybreak, so at dawn, the angels, all of a sudden, they're back to angels again. Men, angels. Okay? Men, angels. Again, to the skeptic, I covered this in yesterday's video. To the skeptic, they think that the Bible is making an obvious, or at least they'll say this, that it's making an obvious mistake. Guys, I mean, do you think that, assuming this is a human being that wrote it and it's not, it's the Holy Spirit, that is my contention. You think they would make a mistake like within the third, like here's, assume this is the first paragraph, so by the third paragraph they already forgot what they said in the first paragraph? That's not possible, is it? Okay? They're doing it for a reason. This is happening for a reason. Literally, the Bible is telling us they can do anything they want. These aren't men, they're angels. They can change their appearance at any single time that they want. At daybreak, the angels heard Lot along saying, "Get up, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, or you will be swept away in the punishment of the city." So they're pretty much done. They didn't really, in the beginning they had mercy, right? They said, "Look, your son-in-laws, whoever, anybody." They said literally, anyone else in the city that belongs to you. We don't care who, okay? Just if they're connected to you, Lot, they can get a pass just because they're connected to you. But those people who Lot went to, guess what they said? "Ha ha ha, we're not leaving." The reason they laughed at him, because in my opinion, they laughed at him when his sons-in-law did, because they were like, "You want us to leave this beautiful place? Ha, I'm not leaving." Okay? That is why their initial reaction was to belittle him. Okay? To laugh at him. And so, anyway, that's just my opinion. But when Lot hesitated, the men grabbed his hand and the hands of his wife and his two daughters. Okay? So he has two daughters, he has his wife, and he has himself. Okay? So just enough. The angels have 2 hands each. You've got 4 of them. So basically 1 hand was grabbed. So each angel got 2 humans basically. And they dragged them out of there. Okay? And they led them to safely out of the city because of the Lord's compassion for them. Okay? As soon as the man had brought them out, one of them said, "Run for your lives." Look, there's an instruction here. Do not look back. Do not look back. That's going to become very important very soon here in the text. And do not stop anywhere on the plain. Keep running. Okay? Run. They're not saying walk. Run. Clear instructions. Don't look back. Don't stop anywhere on the plain. Flee to the mountains or you will be swept away. That means you're going to die. Okay? But Lot replied, "No, my lords, please. Your servant has indeed found favor in your sight. Boy, have you, Lot. And you have shown me great kindness by sparing my life." Yes, it's the Lord's compassion that has you here, as the text tells us. The Lord's compassion. But, the but. Abraham always uses the word but, doesn't he? And Lot is doing the same thing. "But I cannot run to the mountains. The disaster will overtake me and I will die." So he's basically making up a story. I don't know what disaster is going to overtake him. The Bible's not clear. I think the only disaster that may have happened on the mountain is he may have been lonely. And or his family might have been lonely. Or perhaps he was wondering how they're going to eat. Or maybe he was used to a certain comfortable lifestyle in Sodom and Gomorrah. And it certainly is not going to be comfortable in the mountain. The weather elements, the snakes, scorpions, whatever else you're going to be dealing with up there. And a life of loneliness. It's not going to be comfortable for sure. It's not going to be the comfortable house abode he had in Sodom and Gomorrah. "Well, the disaster will overtake me and I will die. Look, there is a town nearby where I can flee, and it is a small place." As in, I'm not looking for big luxury here. I just don't want the mountain, okay? The mountain is very, very very pauper. It's not gonna be good for me. I'm used to a certain lifestyle. You understand, angels. Look, I'll take a small place, not something big. I'm not looking for fancy schmancy, something small. Please let me flee there. Is it not a small place? Notice he's basically bringing that point home, like he's saying to the angels, "Look, I just want something small. Just something small. Okay? I'm not saying give me this luxurious palace or something. Just small. Okay? Just as long as it's not a mountain. Okay? Then my life will be saved." I love it when, like Abraham, he says, "But." Look at the angel's mercy. Okay? "Very well," he answered. "I will grant this request as well. And I will not demolish the town you indicate." The town must have been close to Sodom and Gomorrah. "Hurry," or within that vicinity. "Hurry, run there quickly, for I cannot do anything until you reach it." Because look, orders have already been given to the angel that Lot is not to be harmed. Anybody who Lot says is with me, that person is not to be harmed. So the angel's like, "I'm not going to do anything until I know you're 100% safe." Okay? Because that's the order he's been given. He's carrying it out to a T. So, the Bible says that is why the town was called Zor. So it means, a small place. And by the time the sun had risen over the land, finally Lot had reached Zor. Okay? Now, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. All right? "Then the Lord rained down sulfur and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he destroyed these cities and the entire plain, including all inhabitants of the city and everything that grew on the ground. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt." Now, this is where things get incredibly interesting. Okay. This place has been burned to the ground, Sodom and Gomorrah, and nothing grows there, the Bible says. Written thousands of years ago. Nothing grows here. Moreover, the Bible says that Lot's wife looked back. Now, the common speculation here is the reason she's turning into a pillar of salt. The why of it. Why is she being punished, meaning, is because in her heart, she didn't want to leave that lifestyle that she had. She looked back because she felt bad for what she's missing. That is the common speculation, and I tend to agree with that. I think that's exactly why she looked back. I don't think it was a curiosity thing where she was wondering, like, what's going on, like a car wreck or a train wreck or something like that. God forbid. What she was looking for, I think, was what a lot of people have speculated, in that she had friends there. She had a life there, a lifestyle there that she was used to and quite liked. Maybe it's the same reason that Lot is saying, look, let me go to a small place, a small place. I understand Sodom and Gomorrah is a big, nice, comfortable place, but let me go to a small place. I just don't want to go to the mountains because that's too harsh. It's too much for me. I can't handle that lifestyle. It's too big of a change. Okay? Maybe it's because she was doing, I believe it's that she was feeling a major loss from her life. Moreover, she did something else. There are instructions being given here. I mean, look at the mercy God is having on them. Okay? He's destroying this place, but they're getting a pass not because they've done anything. Lot's wife has done nothing to deserve the pass of not getting destroyed like everyone else and everything else in Sodom and Gomorrah. She's getting a pass because she's his wife. There is nothing she's particularly done other than to marry him. And so just by association, she gets a pass. There are very simple instructions, clear instructions given by the angels. I mean, she sees an angel. An angel is talking to her. Imagine if an angel was talking to you. Okay? Just imagine that for a moment. That an angel of God is speaking to you. She has an angel of God speaking to her with specific instructions. Run for your lives, don't walk, and do not look back. Do not stop anywhere on the plane at all. Keep moving. It's very clear. Run, don't look back. There was a reason why they said that. Okay? She got the first chance when they saved her. The second chance was, let's see if she actually follows the instructions. Because I suspect, this is my own opinion, that they knew she was going to look back. Okay? And they knew that her heart is not with Lot in this way. Lot's heart is with God. He wants a more comfortable life. I get it. He's human. But he doesn't want the mountain life. He wants the small village life. Okay? But at the same time, not her. Okay? Lot's wife, they must have known, the angels, that she really doesn't deserve to be saved. They're giving her a chance anyway. They're giving her instructions. They're saying, look, if you're going to be saved by us, that's fine, because you're with Lot and we have instructions, we have orders, but we have specific instructions here. Don't look back. Okay? Don't look back. Which means because she turned into a pillar of salt, that was already preordained in my view. That means they had that order from before, the angels did. If God is saying to them, save Lot and whatever is with Lot, or whoever is with Lot, but they also knew about this. Okay, that this one, the wife, she was sort of a problem area. Okay, and the wife was, she could have ruined Lot. She could have ruined Lot eternally. Okay, she could have completely ruined Lot and their daughters. So a decision was, I think made before and executed by the angel. Because she was given a chance. She was given instructions. Let's see if she's going to listen. Don't look back. Pretty simple. Okay? Very simple. Don't do it. Yet she still did it anyway. And she became a pillar of salt. Now, I don't know how accurate this is, but it's worth sharing. I think it's accurate. Okay? So this is from ChristianAnswers.net. This is also about Sodom and Gomorrah. I'm just going to read this out to you, okay? The ruins of Sodom and Gomorrah have been discovered southeast of the Dead Sea. The modern names are Babidra, thought to be Sodom, and Numeria, thought to be Gomorrah. Both places were destroyed at the same time by an enormous conflagration. So a wide area of land that's been pretty much torched or burned. The destruction debris was about 3 feet thick. Deep fire, major fire. What brought about this awful calamity? Startling discoveries in the cemetery at Babidra revealed the cause. Archaeologists found that buildings that were used to bury the dead were burned by a fire that started on the roof. And they mean burned, okay? What would cause such a structure in the cemetery to be destroyed in this way? The answer to the mystery is found in the Bible. The Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah, and from the Lord out of the heavens, Genesis 19:24. We just read that. Okay. Then it talks about how it's a unique discovery. It gives you some more information. So the Dead Sea, that whole area, feel free to Google that. You're going to find that literally nothing grows there to this day. You will also find that it is the saltiest lake, I believe, on the earth, if I read that correctly, if my memory serves me right. So it is a very salty place. Now, she became a pillar of salt. My guess is somehow the angel literally moved the salt from the water and surrounded her with it immediately. Okay, that would explain the location and how she became, instead of, let's say, turning into stone or something, they used one of the elements that's here on earth, salt, something that's from the water. They used it and they turned her into salt, a pillar of salt. Now, here's another interesting thing. There is essentially, a pillar is like a good thing, right? You would think a pillar of hope, a pillar of dream. A pillar is like a good thing. But the pillar of salt, looking back at the destruction, is sort of like a reminder to anybody who even thinks about, if they have a view of this place, like, this is what happens when you don't listen, okay? Especially when you've been given a chance that you really don't deserve. You've been given a chance with association, just because of association, you've been given a major chance at life, and you still didn't listen. You still couldn't follow simple instructions. That means your heart is not with God at all. And so, this is, I believe, what happened to her. Okay, obviously this is speculation, right? There is no evidence that that's what happened, but we just know that the Dead Sea is a very, very salty place. Nothing grows there. So it's not even vegetation. Like, literally, it's a dead zone. Okay. And that's to this day. So all of this is literally happening to this day. Now let's keep going. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down towards Sodom and Gomorrah and all the land of the plain, and he saw the smoke rising from the land like a smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that destroyed the cities where he had lived. Now, this is what I was saying in my previous video, where Abraham was sort of negotiating with God. He kept saying, if there is 50 people, if there's 45 people, if there's 40 people, he kept going down the list, because even though he didn't mention Lot at all, God knew exactly what he's talking about. Okay, obviously. He knew that he was really thinking about Lot and Lot's family. Okay, so Abraham was just very concerned about his family, as we would all be if one of our family members was in that situation, right? If you have a family member who's not saved, right? I mean, you want to do what you can to get them closer with God, right? You want them to accept the Lord Yeshua Christ as their Savior. You want them to, very importantly, admit their sins to God, not to you, not to somebody else, but to God in prayer, and to admit them and to confess them, and to ask for mercy and forgiveness, and ask for the blood of the Lord Yeshua Christ to cover them, because none of us deserve the past that we're getting. None of us deserve the pass that we're getting. Had it not been our association with the Lord Yeshua Christ through his blood, we don't get a pass. Okay, none of us deserve this. This is a gift. It's a grace of God. And so all of the Bible, essentially, even in the first book, is a foreshadowing. It's just a foreshadowing. It's a foretelling of what you and I are going to be experiencing. Okay? It's all a repetition. It gets bigger and bigger. The story gets bigger and bigger, but the foreshadowing is still the same. There's always a hint somewhere in the Old Testament as to what's going to happen later on in the New Testament and further on in our lives, in everyday human life. All right. So, here's what's going on next. So when God destroyed, he remembered Abraham, right? He brought Lot out of the catastrophe and destroyed. Okay, Lot and his daughters. Now, this gets beyond weird. Okay, like this is going to get, in our modern times, this is like, what? Did I just read that right? This is where we're going with this. Okay, Lot and his daughters. So there are 4 people literally getting saved out of Sodom and Gomorrah. It's Lot initially. Lot, his wife, and his 2 daughters. The son-in-laws laughed at him. So they didn't take him seriously. They really wanted to stay in Sodom and Gomorrah. And they made a very, very bad decision. So you have essentially the wife. She makes a bad decision. She looks back. All right. So there's now 3 of them left, essentially. So Lot and his 2 daughters left Zor. Check this out. Left Zor. Lot was begging to go to Zor. Literally, he was pleading with the angel. Please, please let me go. Lot and his 2 daughters left Zor, this little small village, and settled in the mountains. For he was afraid to stay in Zor, where they lived in a cave. Okay? So the mountain is, the cave is in the mountain. Zor is a village. And so the very mountain that the angel had originally told Lot to go to, Lot ends up in, even though Lot wanted to go to Zor. The angel told him what he needed to do, and he skipped a step. Okay, the angels would have seen that this is what's going to happen, that it's not for him. The people of Zor are not going to be friendly towards Lot. They have the same type of demons that were in the Sodom and Gomorrah residents are likely in some of those Zor residents who look at Lot as someone who is, from God or on God's side. And therefore, they're not going to be cool with him, especially if they know Sodom and Gomorrah has been destroyed and this guy's the only one and his family that's left and his daughters in this case left. So they're going to think like, what's up? Like, why did you get the pass? What's so special about you? Right? So he was afraid to stay in Zor because they would have killed him there. Okay? So what does he do? He goes back to the mountain and he lives in a cave. And the Bible is very clear to say that he lives in a cave. Because the cave is not exactly like, a nice place. He's got a nice roof. One of those flat roofs they had back in the day where people used to get up there and chill. They had a nice bed, a nice comfortable area. He doesn't have that in a cave. All right. So it's not very comfortable. All right. But look, the mountain represents something here. This in itself is foreshadowing. The mountain consider it like a holy place. Consider it a place that is essentially blessed by God, because it's different from the city. It's different from the evil place of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay? So the mountain sort of separates itself. Living on a mountain, one in this story here, one is separating themselves from what's going on with the sins of the city. Okay? They are living in the mountain. The Lord, essentially, via his angels, directed Lot to take his fam, take him to the mountains, be separated from the evils of this world. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to save him. Lot's like, I'll take a smaller level of the city, okay? I'll take the village life. All right, I'll take a small. It doesn't have to be a nice, luxurious place. Something very small, okay? But it's still not of God, okay? It was sort of a 1 foot in the world and 1 foot in God's kingdom, and that's not acceptable. Both feet have to be in God's kingdom, not one. Both feet. And so, even though he was given direction, Lot was, as to what he needs to do next. He didn't follow the direction, made it harder on himself. I'm sure when he fled Zor, okay, and went back into the mountains, I'm sure that was not an easy decision for him, and I'm pretty sure he did that in absolute fear for his life, or else he would have stayed there. Okay, I think he ran away in absolute fear and terror that they were going to kill him, for he was afraid to stay in Zor. Something happened that he got afraid. I think they wanted to kill him. That's speculation. But I think they were wondering why he lived, why his daughters lived, but everyone else that they knew, I'm sure some of those people had connections in the main cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, in the main area. They had some connections there, and those connections are dead. Why did this guy get a pass? Okay, so why is Lot and his two daughters, why are they getting a pass? So they're mad, and they're going to want to put pressure on him at the very least, and potentially one or two of them might have threatened his life, and so he split. He took off for safety. It's going to get weird, guys. Okay, ready? One day the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man in the land to sleep with us. Everyone's dead." Okay, as is the custom over all the earth. So she's saying, look, everybody's sleeping, and because they want to get, they want to have children, but we can't have that. Okay, everybody's, having sex with someone, and they're getting married, okay, and they're having children, but we don't have that luxury. Okay, of course, there's a little bit of, over exaggeration, not just exaggeration. There is no man in the land. I'm sure there's men. There's definitely men in Zor. Okay, but she's basically coming up with some weird excuse. Okay, she's just she's looking for excuses, as is the custom over all the earth. Now, I don't know how much experience she had, how much travel she had on the earth. Okay, but again, I think she's just over exaggerating here. Come, let us get our father drunk with wine. So, you ready? So we can sleep with him and preserve his line. All of a sudden, she wants to have a child from her father. This is weird. This is definitely weird. Okay? So that night, they got their father drunk with wine, and the firstborn went in and slept with her father. He was not aware when she lay down or when she got up. So he's gone. And they essentially raped their father. She rapes her father. That's what the Bible is telling us here. The next day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Look, I slept with my father last night. Let us get him drunk with wine again tonight, so you can go in and sleep with him, and we can preserve our father's line." My view on this is that she felt like absolute dirt, and misery likes company. So what she did is she convinced her younger sister that I already did it. Why don't you? To get her in the same miserable state that she's in. So again, that night they got their father drunk with wine, and the younger daughter went in and slept with him. He was not aware when she lay down or when she got up. So the Bible tells us his two daughters, who also got a pass, they didn't do anything to deserve the pass, but they got the pass because they're connected to him. And they apparently followed the instructions of the angel because they didn't turn back and look. They were not turned into a pillar of salt. Look what they come up with. Look at this scheme. They decide to rape their father. Okay? In this alone, lonely place on this mountain, these two girls conspire against their own father and sleep with their own father after getting him drunk, just with the excuse of everyone on earth does this and there are no men left anywhere. All of those are lies. Okay, that's pretty clear because Zor is a real place. They're walking on foot, best guess, and they're getting from Zor to the mountain. Okay, so there are people at Zor. There's not nobody left. She could have found someone. Okay, both of them could, but they didn't. They chose to go this route. Now, thus, Both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. You want incest? There's incest for you. The older daughter gave birth to a son and named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites of today. The younger daughter also gave birth to a son, and she named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites of today. Guess who these people become? The Moabites and the Ammonites. They become major enemies of Israel. One sin becomes two sins, and the two sins multiply out, and all of the timeline of history is changed by two girls sleeping with their father. Tens of thousands, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people in various battles between Moabites, Ammonites, and the Israelites ultimately perish. It all begins someplace, and it begins in sin. Sometimes small things become very big things in life. And what we think is just a small sin, it might begin with a thought, which is what we see here, right? There's some loneliness. That loneliness leads to lust, a lustful thought. The lustful thought turns into an action. Then, once the committer of the sin realizes how bad the situation is, they look around and they see that there's no one else in this horrific situation, so they can have some share time in their misery, convinces another human being that you too should do as I did. And the other human being falls into the same trap, and together this thought, this sin that started as a simple thought, turns into lust, turns into action, and that action changes the timeline of history. Sometimes God acts in our lives, and this may have happened to you, where something small changes in your life. Not a big deal. Something small. When you look at it, you would say, that's such a small deal. God told me to take $2 with me today. What is that going to do? I listened. I took the $2. And that $2, you spend it on something, and that something becomes such a huge thing that it changes the course of your life. I mean, God has a tendency of doing this over and over and over and over again throughout history. He will change things in history for our benefit. Something small. We would not even thought that could change anything, but it did. Okay? I wonder how life would have been for Lot if these two daughters of his hadn't gone to Zoar. Okay? I don't know how long they stayed in Zoar. It's not clear. It doesn't say. Maybe they stayed there a few months. Maybe they stayed there a few years. I'm not exactly sure. But at some point he split. Lot took his daughters and split. I wonder if the daughters who had, you remember we just talked about sons-in-law, right? I wonder, and remember, virginity is a huge thing. Back there, to be a virgin before you're married, that's huge. Okay, so they obviously wanted to have sex. They couldn't have sex. That was denied of them. I wonder who they met in Zoar. I wonder what happened in Zoar. They were about to be married. Okay. The sons-in-law. I mean, if we look at the story, look at this. Do you have anyone else here? A son-in-law, your sons or daughters? See, or sons. Lot has no sons. So they don't even care who's hanging out with them. Okay? Your sons or daughters, they being the angels, or anyone else in the city belongs to you, get them out of here, because we're about to destroy this place. For the outcry of the Lord is against his people so great that he has sent us to destroy it. So Lot to his sons-in-law who were pledged in marriage to his daughters. Who were pledged in marriage to his daughters. Okay? So there is a pledge to be married. They were pledged in marriage. I'm not exactly sure if they were married or not. Assuming that they're married, then they lost their husbands. But if they were pledged to be married, then, well, they were very close to having husbands, but that didn't happen because of the mistakes but his sons-in-law thought he was joking. They thought he was joking. Okay? One mistake changed the course of history. If these two had lived, what would have happened? Would they have slept with their dad? It's weird even to say it. Would they have even slept with Lot? No, because they would have husbands. Right? They don't have husbands because their husbands wouldn't listen to simple instruction. You see how a small little thing becomes a huge thing and changes the course of history. They had every chance. In fact, I still say, if Zor was never in the equation, there is in my opinion, a chance that this would not have happened. All of these verses from 31 all the way to 35 would have never happened. It would have never been an entry, because I think they would have essentially never had that lust feeling that they had behind, that they must have felt, in my opinion at least, in Zor. Okay? Now, again, they potentially had husbands. I'm not 100% sure, because they were pledged in marriage to his daughters. Okay? So perhaps they didn't actually go through with the actual ritual. So perhaps they were engaged. Okay? So I'm not exactly clear on that. But my point is that, man, if those two sons-in-law had listened, or if Lot hadn't gone into Zor, it would have been very different. No Moabites and no Ammonites, no enemies. Okay? And this whole incest business would have never happened. This filthiness would have never happened. Okay? Point of the story, listen to God. The small little feelings, the little tug in our mind, the little, maybe I shouldn't do this. That little voice in our head that is telling us right from wrong, that is keeping us from making mistakes. Let's listen to that voice, because that's a good voice looking out for us. Okay? Follow the simple instructions. If he says don't look back, don't look back. Don't look back at your old job, old relationship, old self. Don't look back. It's done. It's gone. Okay? Move forward. Fast, quick. Don't even think about the past. Move forward. Run. Run towards what's waiting for you in the near present, the near future. Don't look back how it used to be. That's gone. Okay? That's done with. Moreover, if God tells you to do something, go someplace else, go there. Don't fight it. If he says go, go. If he says stay, stay. Whatever he says, do. He says run, run. Don't walk. If he says walk, don't run. It's very simple. Follow the instructions. Just follow it. Follow that voice. To some of us who have actually heard God's voice, what a blessing. To those who have just get that feeling, take it. Assume it's from God if it's something good. And move forward. Pray about it and move forward. Okay? It's so important that we listen. It's so important. God is doing it out of love. He's saying something out of love. The angels told them, look, go into the mountains. Hurry. They said it. They can't be more clear. If you don't want to follow that, you have free will. Just like the prodigal son. Right? The father tried to stop the prodigal son and say, you're making a big mistake, you fool. No. He says, I want my inheritance now, before you're dead. Dad says, okay. If that's what you want, he's not going to stop him. He didn't stop him. God's not going to stop us if we want to do something wrong or if we want to do something. Whatever you want to do. He's not going to change your will. You're not a robot. He didn't make you into a robot. So you're going to have to, on your own free will, make a decision as to what you want to do. God says do something. You say no. He's going to say, okay. It's your problem. I told you what to do. So if you don't want to listen, that's on you. Okay? The prodigal son wasn't stopped, but boy was God. In that story, the father is waiting for the son, wasn't he? He sees him from far away, and he throws a big feast and a big party for him. He immediately forgives him when he comes back because God is love. You want to walk away from God, that's on you. But if you want to come back to God, he's got open arms. Look what Jesus did on the cross. Yeshua opened his arms wide on the cross. He's always there. He's always waiting. He's always knocking. You just have to answer the door. And he'll ask you to do something. If you don't do it, that's on you. He's not going to make you do it. What would be the point? This whole thing is about free will. It's about testing us. That's the whole thing. So if he's going to make us do something he wants us to do, then what's the point? There is no test. Until next time, take care of yourselves and your family. God bless.